Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with jazz bassist, composer, and educator Stephen Menold. We talked to him on June 12, 2020 about his latest 2020 CD, On the Night Bus, during this odd COVID-19 world. Andy opened up about his life and music. His musical career has taken him all over Canada and continues to contribute his unique sound and outlook to a variety of projects. Please get to know him and dig this interview.
We are rolling.
Right on. Hey, thanks for taking a minute out for Neon Jazz.
Hey, no problem. I mean, we're in quarantine these days, so my schedule's pretty relaxed.
Yep, I know. Well, and speaking of, before we get into your latest release during a quarantine, On the Night Bus, talk to me a little bit about, like, early to mid-March when you realized we were getting ready to head to this point where live music was going to come to a standstill and we were going to enter this, surreal world.
Well, it was kind of interesting. As this was all unfolding, we in Montreal kind of were deciding to lock down pretty quickly. I actually had a gig on like March 9th or something, and this is when the news was really coming out, and on that day, like, we were doing our sound check, and we got this email from the government saying that, like, all bars are closed, and it was kind of like, we're all looking at each other like, should we play? What is this? It was kind of like, we ended up playing, but it was like the last night of Rome. It was kind of like this really strange feeling of, like, who knows what's going to happen? Like, this might be our last gig for the year. And it was a really special show, but yeah, it was definitely a bizarre feeling.
That's the weird thing about this when I look back. Like, here in Missouri, they were telling us that the kids would go back to school potentially on April 8th, and then they extended it to the 24th. It was just kind of like everything kind of got strung along, but I think there was a level of people that knew that it was going to be longer. That's the thing when I look back now. It's like weird how progressively more intense it got as we went along.
It was kind of like the gradual dropping of a hammer, but as we got, further into just that 1 week of, okay, the bars are closed, and then it was like, next day, okay, everything's closed. Next day, school's canceled. Just like day after day, it was just compounding to this thing. So, like, up here, we were pretty fast to react, but yeah, everybody is I think now kind of on the same page, but in the beginning, that was definitely, I mean, I keep saying like a wild and weird experience, but I mean, I guess everybody's kind of feeling that these days.
Yeah, well, and speaking of, you have an album that's coming out during a pandemic, On the Night Bus. Talk to me a little bit about the fact that, people have more time to listen to music, that you can't back any of this stuff live. Talk to me about your feelings on releasing this.
I mean, I was really happy with the release. I think I'm moving to New Orleans this year to pursue my master's. So this project was kind of like the culmination of like a lot of my thoughts on my time spent in Montreal, as well as like the journeys and people that I met. And so it was really nice to kind of like close this chapter with a recording that I was really happy with. But yeah, everything kind of came to a lurching halt. I was applying to go around the festival circuit. That didn't happen. I was applying to go to the Banff Jazz workshop in August, and that got canceled. So everything just kind of, it was almost like if you're driving like a standard, all of a sudden just shifting into first gear by accident, everything just kind of like lurched to a sudden halt. But now that I'm kind of in the groove of things, it's giving me more of a chance to like reach out and work on kind of more publicity, which is nice because, I'm an independent artist. It's kind of hard for us to get the word out. So again, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's really great that you're taking time out and searching for new music and all these new struggling artists, especially right now.
Well, thank you for reaching out. I'm always very appreciative that there's a lot of musicians that, are out there. I mean, that's the thing I always hear from musicians is that this process of learning is like never ending. And for me, being a radio host, the process of new musicians all the time is never ending. There's always great music. There's always people out there. And I do know now how strong jazz is by the amount of gigs that are canceled by just one musician. It's just unbelievable. So talk to me a little bit about, like your beginnings in jazz. How did jazz become your life?
Well, I grew up on the west coast of Canada in a place called Victoria, and it's on the tip of the island, kind of near Tacoma, Washington. And I was always involved in music. It kind of came to the end of my high school when everybody was applying to university and doing all these, like, I'm going to be an engineer, I'm going to be a scientist, all these things. I just had no aspirations for any of that. And it kind of, somebody mentioned that I could study music, and that was something that I had never imagined possible. And so I ended up applying to this conservatory in Victoria called the Victoria Conservatory of Music, and did 2 years of their jazz program. I mean, I've always been looking for jazz. I think as a young kid, I remember playing like trumpet and trying to like imitate kind of like big bandy sounds, but there was not like a lot of music played in my household, so it was a lot of like searching. And then as soon as like, somebody put a name to this music, I was like, yes, that is what I'm looking for. That is what I'm trying to aspire towards.
So tell me, what do you like the best about being a musician?
I get to sleep in.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, it's been this really interesting, being in quarantine has given us, I think, all like a moment to reflect on what we're doing and how we're doing it. And, being a musician, especially being like a bassist like myself, it's really hard to create a sense of collaboration, through the internet or through like recorded medium, sending it to people, kind of like improvisation by mail. But recently we're starting to relax a little bit, and I have like a weekend gig kind of outside, just on the sidewalk with these 3 other great musicians. And I mean, short of calling it like a religious experience, it was very much that, of just finally, after months of kind of being cooped up in my house and practicing and trying to like make this feeling come from playing along with records, like finally being able to contribute to something that was live and amorphous and changing, was really this kind of cathartic experience for me that allowed me to share, and contribute my voice and my personality and my thoughts through music. It was really an affirming kind of gig where I was like, yes, I am doing, the right thing for me.
Well, when we do get to the point where we are full on playing music and we're at the end of this COVID-19 scare, what do you hope both musician and audience realizes from this time away from live music?
I think it's been probably said quite a lot, that I would say there's a couple things. I think there is the realization that there is no substitute for live music. Probably something to do with just the ability to connect with humans face to face without touching, just with listening and gathering, I think is a really powerful experience that people are really starting to miss and will appreciate. And I think that's going to really kind of inspire people to go out and support live music. I think in terms of musicians, it's going to really hopefully inspire a lot of people to reach out and explore more creative outlets with other people. I think this whole social distance and confinement is really going to, as soon as things open up, swing the pendulum the other way to kind of allow people to share and be more open and honest and connect, on a deeper level with other people.
So my final question to you is this. Everyone has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans, but you're the one living your life. Who do you think you are?
Oof. That's a tough question. Who do I think I am? I am trying to figure that out kind of every day. I like to think that I am first of all, a bassist who's available for gigs. I am a composer. I think in general, like, who I am is somebody who is trying their best to communicate things that are beyond words, if that doesn't sound too pretentious.
No, I like that. That's wonderful. Hey, man, thank you for taking a minute out today to talk about music and this strange world we're in. I really appreciate it. Thanks for reaching out.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in Montreal, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. Thanks to Stephen for his time, music, and story. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.